It's time for us to have a heart-to-heart conversation about the Max Finale weekend. I thought there was a lot of positives, but there's also some drawbacks that I saw during this event that I absolutely must discuss with you guys. And I know the video is a little bit late, but guys, there's been so many announcements this week that it's been really challenging for me to be able to fit this content in and it not get drowned out in Pokemon Go. So let's get into all the details. I appreciate you guys. Welcome to the Trainer Club. Here we go. Let me know what your biggest win or wins and biggest drawbacks from this event are in the comments below. I will also have this so you can copy and paste this onto the Twitter post that I will pin in this video so we can have a running total of what went on this weekend and what we can recommend to Pokemon Go and tag them in it for multiple locations. So please make sure to do both of those. Okay, so for this event, I thought that the week leading up was really cool. I loved how they had those Dynamax coming out during that week, and they also did have the shiny boost as well. So when I say shiny boost, it did appear that the boost was a little bit higher than normal if you did get the premium pass. And I also really liked that they had integration and switches throughout each day almost, or every 2 days, depending on which rotation it was in. And it really allowed everybody to catch up on a lot of the Dynamax legendaries that maybe you missed. And I thought that the background integration was phenomenal. I really enjoy the backgrounds. I think they're cool. Does it make the Pokemon better? No, but it's kind of like a little fun thing to hunt and to see what everybody ends up getting, because everybody does get some unique stuff. The challenging thing for me is I had a couple things going on during this event that I wasn't able to fully play every day like I had anticipated and planned to do because of some family obligations. But hey, that sometimes happens, but I'm still grateful for what I got. All right, so with that said, guys, let's start breaking down this event, because we're gonna start with the positives and then we're gonna have the constructive criticism. I don't want you guys to be in the comments like, this sucks, this company sucks, this company's greedy. Please don't say things like that. What you can say is a better thing that I felt hurt because I put a lot of effort into this and it felt like I needed to spend way too much money to receive some type of benefit. That's a great way to put your feelings and an action into that constructive criticism. That's how I suggest you guys go after here. All right, so let's start right here. I'm gonna pull up my list that you guys have. Number one, humongous XP and Stardust gains for the weekend. You cannot deny that Gigantamax, while they may be challenging, they may be a little bit expensive, they have by far the biggest XP and Stardust gains that have ever been added into Pokemon Go. And Stardust is welcomed because it costs so much to max out so many Pokemon, and being that these Gigantamax battles are challenging to take down, obviously you're gonna need to level up Pokemon to be able to compete, so I think that the Stardust is amazing. I personally think that if you are a spender and you're not a budget spender, the 200 coins is very worth it. Being able to come out of one, 6-minute interaction with 75,000 Stardust is crazy. I think over this week, I probably gained around 30 to 40 million Stardust, which is mind-blowing. That takes so long without these type of interactions, and I was able to do that in a week. Did I spend a lot of money? Yes, but sometimes I put it into perspective of like, how much time is it gonna take me to yield that? And then how much am I gonna pay to yield that? And then that's where I come to the realization of what's worth my time and energy, and especially that Eternatus was definitely worth the doubling for that 200,000 XP and the 75,000 Stardust, but I did all the Gigantamaxes during this time. I also like that there was 2-day weekend dedicated to the Gigantamax Pokemon, so it did have more of an opportunity and time frame to be able to raid here. There were also tons of great spawns that I wasn't even able to cover because of how much was going on during that week, but man, there were Trubbish out there, there were weather boosted Trubbish for us, there were the Sableyes, and so many Pokemon. I actually ran out of Pokeballs. I feel like there was not enough resources going on throughout the weekend, and maybe that was done on purpose to try to get us to spend money on Pokeballs and such, but man, it was challenging to keep up with a lot of things that we'll talk about here in a second. I also really like these Battle Pass integrations, and while yes, they are cash grabs, let's just be honest with ourselves, I do believe that they bring value in. You get encounters, there's a lot of items in these reward encounters as well, and then the more you grind, the more you get, and then there's additions onto it, which is always fun for me. I enjoy these type of things. I play Fortnite, and guys, if you guys do play Fortnite, please use code TRAINERCLUB while you are purchasing shop items. It does recycle every 2 weeks, so if you just keep inputting that, that would be very much appreciated. I also really like the in-person activations that were in Seattle, San Francisco, and Boston. Man, did those places look epic for all the trainers that were able to attend. Unfortunately, I had some obligations, so I was not able to get to Seattle like I had planned. The 100-person battle lobbies was a massive upgrade. I love this integration, and I do hope that this stays into the game, as well as the RSVPs in the Gigantamax and Dynamax, which is very helpful. There is unlimited remotes. I love that. I love unlimited remotes for these weekends. I don't think that they should always be unlimited. Maybe we could go to 20 or 30. I don't think it's healthy to have unlimited, to be quite honest with you guys, but having unlimited weekends always is a reminder of how nostalgic and how fun that is. In my Discord, we were churning an absolute ton of raids with my friends from the top tier Patreons, and also those $8 rooms did a ton of those raids. There was also a really good max bundle particle in the game as well. Unfortunately, it was only limited to 3, which will be a constructive criticism before we move into strictly constructive criticisms. If that bundle was available all weekend, well, yes, maybe you're not going to earn quite as much money. I think that more importantly, it's the congruency and the desire to help people out during expensive, expected weekends, right? Where it's like, I know you guys are gonna be spending a lot of money. I'm acknowledging that. I'm not trying to hide that. And I'm not gonna rip you off by always charging you the 3-pack deal or whatever that is. Maybe it's not quite as good as that 8,000 for the coins, but maybe it's 6,000 for maybe just a bit under in those coinage. So you can get 3 of the premier ones and then have more of a budget one going on all weekend. So it encourages people to spend money. People be more apt to spend money, especially because they're like, well, normally these are really expensive. And here now, we're gonna make it a little bit more easy for you since we're expecting you to raid so much, especially for that Eternatus, which is then gonna change over into our constructive criticism. My biggest thing was the time schedules were barely followed. On the entire Sunday, there was maybe like 1 Charizard turnover that was all Charizards and some Eternatus. But for the most part, it was almost all Eternatus all the time with just a few additions in there. I don't know about you guys, but personally, I got so sick of Eternatus. And while I think that, you know, rating for this Pokemon was cool, I do have a point which is integrated into point number 2, which we're going to talk about right now, which is they could have done a much better job at integrating Eternatus into this gameplay style. Maybe doing Gmax battles, not having Eternatus in raids, or having Gmax battles only, having them scattered throughout the weekend, and then what you're able to do is every time you battle one of these Gmax Pokemon, maybe you don't get the 50 XL candy, maybe you get 40 XL candy, and maybe, you know, 4/5 of the candy. So then the entire weekend is focused around Gigantamax battling in those systems. Why do we need to fight Eternatus when you're not able to catch with it? And then for this weekend only, maybe if you go to the battle pass, then by the time you get to level 80, you're able to unlock the normal amount of XL candy when doing these raids. Therefore, people are able to do all these Gigantamax, what they missed out on. We're not catching anything from Eternatus. And furthermore, it allows the people to hunt the shinies with the backgrounds, and honestly, I think that having just the slightest boost in shiny rates to Gmax would be amazing. But not only that, I truly believe that the Gmax system should not be a 10-10-10 from the reward encounter. At a minimum, let's do 11-11-11 and call it lucky numbers. I would prefer more of 12-12-12 like lucky trades, because guys, how many of these can we really do unless you're really hardcore? We were able to do 100 Gigantamax Toxtricity in Canada with Daxi, if you want to see that video up here, but that was tasking, it was grueling. We had to rent 2 vans, multiple cars to be able to complete this, and we had to give people money if they were able to commit to us for the entire day to be able to make this happen. Which also leads us into tip number 3, that even if they didn't choose to do this type of integration, which I do believe is the best way to do it, I think everybody would be hyped on that. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. We are now going to have Eternatus dominating almost all of the battles, leaving it very fruitless for people that are trying to hunt some of their favorite Gigantamax Pokemon with the background Lapras. For me, I was not able to hunt this. It was so detrimental to my mental health, and I felt so sad during this time. I really wanted to get after this Lapras, try to get a shiny with the background. Unfortunately, on Sunday, I think I saw 2 Laprases over the entire time, and maybe remoting, I was able to get into 3 to 5 more. It was extremely disappointing for me personally, and I'm sure there's other Pokemon out there that maybe you guys felt the same. Maybe it was Butterfree for you because it's your favorite Pokemon. Charizard was a little bit more dominated, but Venusaur I barely even saw, and it was just such a poor spread of things. By max here, Eternatus could have only taken up, in my opinion, 50% of the power spots, and everything else should have been integrated to a mix of all the Gigantamax. And maybe if you wanted to go every 2 hours and mix up certain types of Gigantamax, so then maybe it's like the Kanto starters, and then maybe you throw in there like Butterfree and Snorlax and anything Kanto related in 2 hours, and then it switched to another thing in 2 hours, and then it switched back and forth so people could kind of come and go as they please, and give it a little bit more organization. The 1 hour intervals doesn't make sense. Eternatus dominating all the battles doesn't make sense, and flipping this to having a little bit more Pokemon and letting them be sporadically spread throughout would be really well. But ultimately, just getting rid of Eternatus and getting the candy from battling Gigantamax by maybe doing some type of research would have been much cooler during this time and could have been well integrated into the game. And I would just love to be a part of this planning in Pokemon Go. It's like you have so many creators at your access, and yet you guys continue to just not use us as resources to optimize these games, these events. We've been playing this game, me personally, and many other creators for 9 years now. Almost all of the events have been had throughout all of the creators, and yet we are still not consulted for event information and suggestions before the event happens. And that's why we continually see these errors. I truly believe that, because it's like they get new employees, things are forgotten, you're not running it through people that actually play test these events every single time in a much higher quantity than anybody else in the world ever gets to do. So it's like, why not use us as resources to be able to help make these events absolutely spectacular so that everybody wins? Not only that, the slow animation of entering in the max potions and then the remote raid pass, and then it's like, sorry, battle's done. Come on, dude, we got to get past that. The party integration where you're able to save a max party, and then if one of those Pokemon fainted out, it totally wipes that party from your page, is really frustrating. There were no potions, no max revives, any type of revives. I mean, we're doing power spots with max particles. You think you couldn't just put a pack of max revives and max heals in there almost the entire day? I think I was running with about 50 Pokemon, all of my strongest Gmax, at 50% health for the entire day. I had my auto catcher spinning stops. It was not giving me any potions. I could not heal my team, and it was an absolute disaster. And then furthermore, I'm lucky enough to come in with a lot of golden raspberries from some of the raids that I've been doing, but man, those weren't even prevalent as well. So it's like, for people that didn't have that type of surplus, we're struggling in all fronts. However, I will give them one other massive commendment, and that is making these Pokemon easy to catch. That was such a win, and I will always harp on how important this is when we're in hardcore battle weekends, having the Pokemon easier to catch so that we're able to not get hung up on trying to catch these, which will wear us down. It's going to wear us out, and it's going to be very frustrating when we're trying to grind something and these things are just eating all the Pokeballs for 5 minutes. And the last two things that are continually being frustrating for me is, number one, we can only hold 3 remote passes, and we can only buy packs of 100 for the particles. And while yes, you can sit there and buying them, why don't we just have bigger packs? Why can't we just buy 20, 30, 40 remote raid passes? At least if you don't want to do it all the time, great. But for these weekends, let us buy a lot more. Let us just get after it. Come on, man. I've never met a company or seen a company that's like, the consumers are asking like, please let us be more efficient in spending our money. And they're like, no, we're going to make it really challenging for you. And we don't want to take your money as fast. And we're just going to make you feel inconvenienced for trying to spend your money on something that you're calling a hobby for you. It's like, what, dude? We're like, please let us do this easier, faster, more efficient. And we're like, slow down. We don't want it that fast. We're going to make it very slow, painful, and tedious until you get frustrated so much that you just don't want to play the event anymore. And that's how we really love you back. I don't get that type of mentality. That doesn't make sense for me. Doesn't work. I think there's a lot of changes and a lot of feedback that can be had here. Guys, let me know in the comments below if I forgot anything. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I am here for you. You know I've always been here for you. I am not going to hold back anything that will not benefit you guys in Pokemon Go. So thank you guys for being here as always. I love and appreciate you. To all of my likers, commenters, subscribers, Patreon members, everybody takes your support, subscription, and participation to X level. I'm going to see you guys out on the next video. Peace.